we've had Salini on before, and we had technical issues. So now I have her for the full 2 hours, and I'm very, very happy. And you're listening to Studio A. My special guest tonight is Salini Teri Apodaca. And Salini Teri Apodaca was raised in California, where she was trained and initiated by several master spiritual teachers, including Reiki Grandmaster Hawayo Takata, Holy Mother Ammachi, Yogi Haeckel, and her mother Eulalia Mae. She is also a holistic. I always butcher that. Thank you. She is also a holistic practitioner and addictions counselor, a body worker of multiple modalities, an alchemist, and a shaman. She trains and initiates students in Reiki, shamanism, and soul transformation. Her work includes chronic illness, trauma recovery, sexual abuse recovery, mental and emotional illness, addiction recovery, chronic pain, shamanic healing, spiritual awakening, and any other conditions brought to her. Salini works at the level of the soul issues and addresses all aspects of body, mind, spirit when working with clients. Salini also trains people in the healing of the split of duality within the human mind to bring individuals, collectives, and cultures to wholeness. In addition, Salini is a survivor of the MK Ultra trauma-based mind control sex slavery program. She deprogrammed herself and created a program for healing trauma, mind control, and addictions, and restored the fractured spirit of humanity. Her dual initiation into light and dark served as the basis for Salini's understanding of how to heal the matrix of duality in human consciousness. She outlines her healing program in her groundbreaking book, Emerging from the Matrix, Healing Human Trauma and Ending Global Enslavement. That's available on Amazon.com. An excellent read. I encourage everybody to purchase a copy. Salini is available to teach, heal, and awaken anyone interested in the path of spiritual awakening through energy work, soul alchemy, deep personal healing, and divine mother love globally. She is the divine body electrician and can rewire, restore your body's energy grid in preparation for ascension. She is also available for individual sessions in the USA, Skype, and can work on people long distance globally. Salini is the host of the new TV show Beyond the Matrix with Salini and co-host of Heal Yourself Now. And I believe that that's available. There's a link here, and we'll get into that. She is a published author, columnist, and screenwriter, teacher, spiritual retreat leader, motivational speaker, and spiritual visionary. Salini also has a radio show on www.intentionradio.com, also called Emerging from the Matrix, where she speaks truth to the awakening masses and teaches people to self-heal. Her website is www.emergingfromthematrix.com. And please welcome Salini to the show this evening. Good evening.
Hi, Solaris. Wow, that was a mouthful, wasn't it?
I'm telling you, but I just blew right through it. It's wonderful to have you on.
Did great. Thank you. I love being on with you, dear. I love it.
I love having you on. You're such a bright light in a dim world. I'll tell you what, it's beautiful to have you on board with us. And where do you want to begin tonight? You know, we have so many things we can discuss, but where would you like to start?
Well, I was trying to remember where we left off. We only got about halfway through.
Oh, I'm telling you. Well, what's interesting is I said we're not going to have Groundhog Day again, you know, because it was like Groundhog Day. I kept trying to get you that one time. But since we have the full 2 hours, we can go in any direction. I know we touched a little bit about goddess energy, the divine feminine, but also, you know, I touched on a little bit of information before we went live, actually, about the timelines and how, to me, I know in my own design work that this is not where I'm supposed to be. I'm not supposed to be on this timeline, and I'm not even supposed to be on this planet, and I don't think I'm supposed to be living here. So, and that might sound as weird as it is. I know that from where I've been with the covert program. So now, saying that, I don't know how everybody else feels in this illusion of a world, but I do know that we are in such difficult times right now where it comes down to people's ethics, spirituality, path. It's like mankind has shut his heart chakra down. And you can correct me and stop me at any moment, but to me, I'm seeing a lot of weird and too much weird, almost to a point where it's just like you wake up and you just like, this place is like, it's just sickening to me. Now that I'm being cynical, go ahead and bring your light forward.
Okay, good. No, that's a good way to start. Let's just get all the nastiness out front and let's confront it.
That's right.
Yeah, no, I have a lot of thoughts about this. And let's start by saying that it's kind of like a nasty wound. You know, if you get in a wound and then it gets infected and then there gets to be pus in it. And in order for it to heal, all the pus has to come out. It has to get really red and nasty looking and drippy and everything. And then boom, you know, it gets drained and all the bad stuff comes out and then the wound heals. That's what's happening right now in humanity because, you know, we've had thousands and thousands of years of these really demented people ruling this planet. And they're not all people. You know, some of these people are aliens or whatever, fallen angels, whatever you want to call them. Mm-hmm. But they aren't human, or they're soulless or heartless. And, you know, their goal is to devour us, energetically or physically. And their reign is coming to an end, Solaris. It's coming to an end. And our job is to, even though we may feel like we're on the wrong timeline, and I feel it too, it's like I'm so futuristic that I knew this stuff when I was like 15, and I'm like, what's taking everybody so long? Well, some of us have to come. We're like, the advance guard. We're the cutting edge, the vanguards. And we are the ones that are, saying, all right, everybody, walk this way. We're holding up the lanterns and we're guiding people. And it's going to get much more intense than this, Solaris. Mm-hmm. Much, much, much more intense.
I see that too. Yeah, go ahead.
What I see happening is it started, especially with the current election of this group of super conservative people. What's happened is that they are withdrawing all support from the poor and the middle class. And I'm watching what's happened is the sucking up of the resources and of the energy of anybody who isn't super uber rich. And as of last night, I don't know if you heard the news, they voted in the tax bill. Well, this is going to end all social programs, and the poor are going to be dying in the streets like crazy. And this was prophesied that we'd come to a point where the United States becomes completely bankrupt. And it's at that moment that the final, shifting really takes place. So we have to live through this really horrible conservative period. And then all of a sudden you're going to see an even bigger shift towards awakening. And it's not going to be about Democrats and Republicans. It's going to be about people finally stopping this crazy pursuit of money and wealth and power and property and oil and all that kind of stuff. And people are going to start waking up and realize that we brought the planet to the brink of destruction. We have to do it differently. Mm-hmm. So that's actually already starting, but we still have, unawakened leadership, people who are damaging the planet, people who are stealing. I mean, all of Congress is bought and sold. Mm-hmm. So, these
that's
people
been forever, though. The Salini, and just like you were saying, this country, the global cabals, the global governments, it's always been that way. It's not just the new administration. It's been like this forever. And I think people need to understand that this is just, like you were talking about, the wound coming forward. I don't think it has any place to go anymore. I don't think this negativity that's been here for many, many centuries has any place to go. So it's just bubbling up.
Well, that's exactly what I'm leading to, is that this is sort of the most concentrated it's ever been. This version of leadership, I'm not just talking about Republicans, I'm talking about all of them, these global cabals, is the most concentrated negative that it's ever been.
Yeah.
And before, they didn't have the internet, and they didn't have, this advanced military and technology that we have here. With that, they can really control the world, and they can shut us down mentally, emotionally, spiritually, and physically. And, they're going to try. Mm-hmm. And that is when our work becomes the most important, where we need to step forward as light workers and spiritual leaders, healers, truth speakers, and to just bust that paradigm. I'm a system buster. I'm a big-time truth speaker. I'm a big-time you-know-what kicker. But I'm also full of love and healing. So it's almost like, I crack the egg open and then I cook it up in the pan, I transform it. It's like the shell of this cabal needs to be broken. On the inside are the raw materials of spiritual awakening and healing. And we've all got it. It's all within us. But they've been shutting us down for eons, as you just said. Mm-hmm. And what's happened, though, what's exciting, which you already know, but I'm going to start talking about it for your listeners, is the awakening of the divine feminine, the rise of the divine feminine. And I'm going to be doing a show on that this week, actually, on my own TV show, and I'm calling it the Rise of the Raped Goddesses, because all these women are stepping forward, I'm sure we've seen it, and saying what happened to them, varying degrees of sexual assault, everything from minor to serious. And, the men are being taken out of power like lickety-split, aren't they, Solaris?
Mm-hmm. It's very interesting. And what I find interesting is that it's almost the tip of the iceberg, because coming from where we've come from, I know you've been through the hardcore MK Ultra. I've been through an internal and external abuse that's way beyond rape. So when you're dealing with things like that, I mean, that's just the tip of the iceberg, but it is nice to see these things coming out and coming forward. But I still would like to see a few Canadians get nailed, and some other people that I'm well aware were involved in some covert warfare against me. So we'll see what happens down the timeline. But yeah, it's good to address this stuff, and it needs to be coming out. And another thing that I want to see addressed also is this FBI group who literally need to be called out on the carpet for war crimes, because since day one, they have been involved in torturous programs, remote assassination programs. They've all tied into the CIA, and I'm not going to get started here, but I'll tell you point blank, that's something that people need to look at. Those guys are not clean.
Which FBI group are you
I'm talking about
referring
all
to?
of them. Maybe a small percentage of the people that work underneath their bosses might be semi-decent, but I'm talking about anybody. Mueller, the whole sorry-ass lot, they need to be called on the carpet for war crimes. And we know, we have proof and we have evidence about targeted individuals and psychotronic weapons and everything else that's been torturing people 24 hours a day. So that needs to be addressed. I think that's one of the biggest things, Salini, that needs to come out, because that is an invasion of body, mind, and spirit, and a violation of the sacred temple. And you're talking about the goddess, and boy, oh boy, does that violate the sacred temple within.
Well, it absolutely does, and as I told you before, I'm going to have you on my show, and you can
happy to.
You can talk about that until you're blue in the face as much as you want to. So we're going to get to that.
I am interviewing you tonight, so I better switch gears. Go ahead.
No, it's okay. It's all right. No, we can talk about it. I just we're going to step by step here. What I was going to say is what you just said is absolutely right. That we start with these stories. They're pretty tame, really, with the exception of maybe Harvey Weinstein and Bill Cosby, like master serial rapists. Most of them are like 1 or 2 episodes, and they're just kind of like sleazy guys. They may not necessarily be full-blown rapists or anything, but, like Matt Lauer. Matt Lauer. Interesting?
I don't want to cut you off, but remember when we were talking last time off air, we had a really good conversation, but we kind of grew up with used to men making comments like that. And I mean, I've been around men like that in corporate, and I never thought anything about it. I never thought about turning them in. They said things that maybe were not appropriate, right? You know what I mean? So I find that very interesting that is something that is really now being addressed, because where I come from and where all the years that I worked, boy, that was going on all the time, and nobody said a word. Not a word.
Yeah, well, you and I are a little bit older, so we grew up with nonstop sexual harassment. And, now that I'm finally old enough where it doesn't happen to me every day, when I was younger, it happened to me pretty much every day. And I mean, I've had jobs where really, these people would go to jail now for the things that I experienced. I can remember jobs where the men would try to grab my boobs as I walked by. I had a boss once that he was married, I was married and pregnant, and he harassed me every weekend to go to Las Vegas with him. And I mean, it's like, what's your problem? I can't even believe it. Mm-hmm. It didn't matter that I was pregnant. They're still, they want you to come, Yeah. I'm just like, wow, you guys are really lost. And it's sad to me that men were so unconscious to their own behavior, they didn't even know they were doing anything wrong. And This is what I see with some of the men that have been nailed, is that they honestly didn't realize that they were, and I'm not excusing any of them. I'm just saying that some of them didn't realize that the women were upset or afraid. And I'm not talking about the ones like Bill Cosby and Harvey Weinstein. Those guys are massive serial rapists. Life imprisonment is too short for Bill Cosby. He's raped over 250 women. And we're going to get into the MK Ultra program, and I'm going to lead off with him. But first I want to say that when you have somebody like Al Franken on a comedy tour, maybe they had too much to drink and he, made that unfortunate photo. He's not a serial rapist. He's basically a good person. And like the one this week, Russell Simmons, some woman came forward and he said he thought that it was consensual. He didn't realize that he had scared her so badly that she felt like she had to go forward. And so he stepped down and he apologized and he said, I'm going to open a healing center in my office for all of us guys because we don't even know what we're doing. Right. And that's kind of where we're at right now. And to answer your earlier statement is, yeah, I've had men talk to me all kinds of things. Oh, your boobs look good or whatever. You just keep going, But
I used to laugh it off.
My daughters would not tolerate that, and they would have
Mm-hmm.
reported that to the police. So things are
Wow.
different with the women in this generation, and I'm glad they are, because enough is enough. You know,
Yeah, no, I
we've all
agree. And
been.
it also goes both ways. And the one thing I do want to mention real quick is that women can harass men too. And I remember working around some nasty women that I think that were just as bad as the men. So they're not completely fail safe either. So,
No,
but
of course not. I mean, I
yeah,
can't right offhand, I don't know a
mhm.
woman who's done that, but I certainly believe that there are.
Yeah, they're
And
predators. They can
and
be.
there's been some gay ones too, you know, that have harassed men or women, and you know, it can happen to anybody, but the point is that we have to learn to respect each other's boundaries and realize that interaction with other human beings needs to be sacred and not violent,
Right.
whether it's
Yeah.
verbally or physically violent. You know, for a woman, as you well know, we grow up looking over our shoulders, being fearful of rape.
Well,
And
see, then I'm a martial arts instructor, so I don't have that. But yes, and
oh,
most women were. They were very much growing up and yeah, very concerned about those things. And, you know, I always say courtesy goes a long way too. It's just manners. You know, where are the manners of people? Did their mothers and fathers raise them correctly? Because, you know, we would never act up in public. So, you know, you take that with you as you get older, right? And you don't say things that are not appropriate in public or to other people. That's at least the way I thought it was. So,
well, what's happening, though, to take it to the level that I really want to get to, is
hmm
the massive empowerment of women is occurring. So this is a very necessary watershed moment where the voiceless have finally, I mean, all these years I've been trying to tell people that I'd been raped and I went through this horrible program, and nobody could give a flying fuck, you know? And
Oh, we have to watch the F-bomb.
oh,
Sorry,
sorry
guys.
about that.
Yeah. Okay, that's okay.
Nobody
Crack.
nobody cares.
Okay.
And you know, I went to the police, I went everywhere, and you know, the police told me that it was legal in the state of California to molest your children.
Whoa.
So you know, if you're the breadwinner in the family, you can molest all of your children and you can have as many as you want. And I call these the Jane Doe laws, where women are systematically disempowered so that predators can prey upon them, and it's part of the system because they live off of our divine energy.
hmm
So now that
Yep.
women are coming forward, what's happening is, surprisingly, these men are being fired within 3 days after these things are coming forward. That wouldn't have happened 3 years ago, 2 years ago, 1 year ago, 6 months
hmm
ago.
Right.
All of a
Yeah.
sudden, the power has shifted, and if you're a woman coming forward, these men are gonna be held accountable. Now that's shocking to me because, you know, I couldn't get anybody to even bat an eyelash when I told my story. So this tells me that the energy has shifted, the era has shifted, and the
Right.
divine feminine is rising. And what's going to happen as a result of this is, once we get through the worst of all these revelations and people get fired or we work on it, well, women are going to start forgiving the men, with the exceptions of the Bill Cosbys of the world, and we're going to start working on it. And the goddesses are going to step forward, and they're going to be talking to the men, and you know, offering healing, offering support, offering forgiveness, because we're the ones who are going to heal the hearts of mankind.
hmm
We're the ones that are bringing the nurturing, the love, the creativity into the male paradigm. You know, the male paradigm has been devoid of yin energy for 12,000 years. You know, astrologically, Solaris, this is a period where Virgo the Virgin was
hmm
in the shadow for 12,000 years, and that means the suppression of the divine feminine.
hmm
As of 2012, Leo went into the shadow, which Leo representing the sun, the male,
hmm
and there's going to be 12,000 years of the male being suppressed and the female being empowered. You know, and the difference is that we're not going to be enslaving and raping them, you know.
hmm
We're going to be healing and empowering them, and we're going to be infusing the yang energy with yin energy so that it becomes balanced, equal, and healed. You know what I mean?
Right. Yeah, exactly. Well, it certainly needs to be done. I mean, there's a lot of, well, I call it programming and social engineering. People need to be deprogrammed. I don't care if they're male or female. And we've lived through this for, like I said, many, many decades. So it makes perfect sense to me, though, that needs to happen. And I don't want to make man out to be a villain. I love men. I think they're fabulous and wonderful. And I've met some wonderful males out there. But I would say that the rotten apples do need to be addressed. And the people that are, pulling off these war crimes need to be called out on the carpet. And that's why I mention that often, because, rape takes on many forms, and including technological and psychotronic weapons remotely done. So.
Absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely. And that's what, the beginning of this was. We said, those are pretty tame, what's going on in the news right now compared to what you and I went through. Yeah. And that's what I was going to say, is that the next stage is that people like us step forward and say, oh, guess what? There's 30 million to 50 to 100 million of us experiencing technological rape or energetic rape or mental rape, and that's going on a mass scale. But first, we have to get this stuff out. It's like a dawning awakening. Everybody's like, what? Oh, my God. I mean, I've heard men say, I can't believe there were this many men doing this. And I'm like, are you kidding?
No
it's
kidding.
Like every man I know at one time or another. It's like, get over yourselves.
I could tell you stories, too. I mean, yeah, they can be pigs. There's no doubt.
And so it's like, once everybody gets over the shock of this, then we need to start going deeper and deeper and deeper. And that's when we're going to start uncovering. And that's why you and I are here at this timeline to answer your earliest question. We're here at this timeline for a reason, Solaris. You're in the right time and the right place, because you know stuff that people in this timeline need to know. And for all you know, you made this choice. You made a soul contract, and you said, I'm going to step into an older timeline, and I'm going to deliver some important information, and it's going to be painful for me, but I'm going to do it. And that's what I've decided. For a long time, I questioned, why am I here? It's just like all this abuse and weird stuff going on. And then I realized that I've deprogrammed myself, and I've created a healing path that works. It really works. Somebody asked you, I mean, there's a lot of people that have come out of MK Ultra. I don't know anybody that's created a healing program yet.
No, they do therapy. They have all these kinds of therapies. But I like your book, and I completely support it 100%. And I think that people should purchase it. And also the fact that you do private sessions. Now, what year did you come out and start talking about your own MK Ultra experience? What year was that?
Wasn't that long ago. I mean, I started talking about being molested probably in the early 90s.
Okay.
But nobody even wanted to hear about that. I mean, even at that point. But at that time, I was starting to receive information about all these deep programs. I didn't really understand how severe my programming was for a long time. I just knew that something terrible had happened, and I'd been molested, and that I felt suicidal. And I thought, wow, whatever it was super bad. And then I started seriously, the universe delivered information to me in so many ways you can't even imagine. And somewhere around 1991, I started receiving information about the JFK assassination. Then I started receiving information about these pedophile networks. And I thought, wow, this is resonating with my life. And so then I started to really research it, and I realized that this is what had happened to me. And so I started to write the book back in the early 90s. And then I lost my sister. She passed away from the abuse that we received. And I had already tried to save her life. And she said to me, you were right. If I had just done what you told me to do, I would live. And so she begged me to go out there, write the book, and save as many lives as I could as her deathbed wish. And so it was a devastating blow to lose my sister, because she was my only witness to, there's one other witness, but he hasn't come forward yet. And when she passed away, it was like I was alone in the wilderness. And so, it would have been about 12 to 15 years ago, I started to speak openly about it. And then the MK Ultra, I started speaking openly about it about 7 years ago.
Right. And mine was 2004. I was just curious what timeline that was. Yeah, that was a long time ago, and yet people were not paying attention even then.
Nobody was paying attention. Well, I was afraid to talk about it because I had been programmed for suicide and programmed that I would be, and I was stalked. I've been gang stalked, I've been targeted, and I was programmed to, not to speak. But I'm an Aquarius. I'm a true speaker. I'm a warrior. I'm a rebel. I'm a revolutionary. It's like you can't shut me up. You know, I'm gonna. At the risk of my life, I will tell the truth. And I have children coming after me who need to have a brave mother who survived.
Right.
And I want them to see me as a warrior who fought back, not as a defeated victim. So, and I want everybody in the world to know that there's at least one person who fought back against this horrible programming and succeeded. So, until I die, I'm going to be a warrior, but I'm going to be a warrior with heart. And I'm going to let everybody know that I love you. And that includes the perpetrators. If they're serious about their recovery and making amends, they can come, but they can't come without a surrendered, remorseful heart.
Right.
And the path is open for forgiveness and healing. And that precedent is being set right now with some of these guys that, like Al Franken, he apologized to the woman and she accepted his apology. That's what we need to begin to do. And we can't just kill everybody off, And some of these men are going to be really, really bad. I mean, some of them, like what you went through, was really horrible.
Oh yeah, they have arrogance. They'll never come clean. Never.
Well, then they need to be imprisoned.
I know.
Life.
I know. That's why I'm
these kind of people need to go to jail for life and go through whatever consequences they have to go through. Like my perpetrator, my father, MK Ultra.
Where'd you go?
He did. And he should be 50, 60, 70 years in prison for what he did. And he never got called on the carpet. But that's just because he was of the older generation of Illuminati. The new ones are going to go down. They're all going to go down one by one. And one by one, there's going to be the rise of the goddesses and the rise of, and the millennials and the younger people. They're going to rise up and they're going to revolt because they don't have any opportunity in this culture. They can't buy houses. Their wages are low. They don't have benefits. It's very difficult for them to survive in a culture that's controlled by the global elites. So you're going to see a massive uprising of females empowering, and these females are going to empower the males in a new way. And it's not just going to be, we're going to make you have sex with us. It's going to be us giving them our power freely because they're going to be respecting us. And then together we make a unit of power that's both yin and yang, that's more powerful than anything that was ever before with just yang, because it's infused with love. So, those people who can step forward with a combination of power, truth, and love are unstoppable. And I'm one of them.
You do. You radiate a nice, beautiful, loving energy. You really do. Yeah.
I can be mad if I need to be. Let me tell you, I can kick ass if I need to.
Oh, good. Yeah, I'm definitely in the war zone most of the time. 98%.
I have to be sometimes.
I've been wired into the war zone. Unfortunately, that was where they put me. So, yeah.
But other times it's about forgiving, and I can do that too.
Yeah. And I usually grace and move on. I have a really hard time forgiving people, especially if I know they've done something to destroy my life. And they're happy and gloating about it. I have a real hard time with that. So what I do is grace and move on. I don't forgive. I let the universe deal with them. So that's just me. That's just the way I function.
Well, sometimes
because I can't control
hard,
them,
isn't it?
Yeah. I mean, I know that I don't have it in me to forgive these people. So I just give it to source. I just give it to the multiverse. I say, you know what? But something's got to give. And I know that universal repercussions are usually Madam Karma does hit them in the appropriate areas eventually. And you're seeing it here, as you were touching on earlier. I mean, even in America right now. And I have to say, being back where you are, because you're back here on the mainland and you're in California, that seems to me like a really, really horrific place to be with MK Ultra and all kinds of. How does it feel there energetically for you to be back there?
Well, I was not real happy about it at first, and I was very happy in Bali. Bali is a very beautiful, beautiful place, although they're having a volcanic eruption right now. But wow, there's the spirituality there is so deep and so vast, like nowhere I've ever been on Earth. That once you've been in a place like that, you can see what's wrong with the USA. And it always makes me laugh when people rise up and say, "Oh, we're the greatest country in the world," and blah blah blah. Waving the flag, and we are so far behind all the other Western nations. After I just came back from this lengthy tour of Asia where I was teaching and healing people, the Asians are way ahead of us.
Oh, and holistic healing? Oh, yeah.
And not just that, but you should see their infrastructure, not Bali, but Singapore, China, Korea. Their airports are light years ahead of our airports. Their roads, their bridges. We've allowed our infrastructure to fall apart because the elites are siphoning all the money out of the system.
Right.
And they're using it for their weaponry, their secret black budgets.
You're
and
right.
They're using it for their underground cities and tunnels. And they're using it for warfare on other countries. And, it's not anything that we think they're using it for.
Mm-hmm.
They're using it for black operations.
Yep.
Of various types, whether it's the Mars Project or the psychotronic weapons or World War or whatever it is. They're using it wrong. They're misusing the funds. But when you go to China, Korea, Singapore, you see airports, roads, it's state of the art, and these bullet trains that are state of the art. Japan. It's like, I was so shocked. I thought I was going to be in some third world situation. It's not. Mm-hmm. The USA is more third world looking than I could have imagined. I mean, certainly not all of it, but there are a lot of parts of the Yeah, and it's decaying and it's bad, and
it's neglected. And like you said, the cabals and these administrations over the years, and I can go down a checklist of how many years administrations have been, like you said, siphoning off the money and taking it and investing it in other areas. And of course, this whole country's fallen apart because of it. So yeah, it's a problem. It's a huge problem.
Yeah, and people are very brainwashed here, and that's another thing. When you're in other countries, foreigners would come up to me and say, how can you stand the United States? And of course, that your country is the most drugged country in the world. I mean, everybody here is on medication. That's not the case in the rest of the world. Mm-hmm. We are the only country that's totally controlled by the medical cabal and the big pharma cabal. I mean, it's not like there's no drugs in other countries, but they don't have the level of control over the people like they do here, like mandatory vaccination, forcing people to be medicated. If you display any signs of awakening, you're going to be diagnosed as bipolar, and you're going to be forced to take medication. And then if you don't, then they'll lock you up in a 5150, and they begin to make your life hell. Whereas if I go to Bali and display the same behavior, I'm honored and carried across the city on someone's shoulders, and they give me a house. And I mean, the people were lining up outside of my hotel room wanting to see me. And I didn't even advertise. So it's like, how do they know? They recognize a true healer when you walk into their arena. So it's a very alive, awake, magical environment. Whereas the United States, and this is to answer your question here in California, there's a deadness here.
Yeah.
But at the same time, it's like a rebirth taking place under the surface. What I see, a way I would describe it is, just imagine in the fall, when all the leaves fall and there's a lot of dead material on the ground that makes a mulch. And it looks dead and dry, but underneath it, there's life is being born again. Insects and plants and animals are growing. And before you know it, there's springtime, and it comes out again. I think we're going to come to a springtime in America. I think you're going to see, because there's a vast number of younger people involved in the sustainability movement. They're interested in holistic healing. They're interested in community living and eco villages and things like that. They're not interested in becoming billionaires, and making these big, huge corporations that are sucking the life out of everybody. There's always a few people that want to do that, but by and large, they know that it's not sustainable anymore to have this kind of, I'm the next tycoon kind of philosophy. And, all the Warren Buffetts and Donald Trumps of the world, these people are dinosaurs, and they're going to go down for the count. The day of the white male patriarchal tycoon billionaire is going to go down. And you're going to see that money dispersed among the people soon. I'm going to make a prediction. First, we're going to have an economic collapse. You're going to see some chaos. You're going to see some suffering, a lot of it. That's what it's going to take to wake everybody up. After that, people are going to organize into collectives. And there will be a new economy, a new society, and a new paradigm, and it's going to be led by women. And we will probably not be it'll be a cashless society, maybe digital, or maybe bartering like we used to do thousands of years ago. But the reason they are able to control us is because of money, the fiat currency, which is tied into the Illuminati banking cartels, the Rothschilds, and they charge us interest, and that's how we become debt enslaved. And that has to end, because that's what's destroying the educational system. It's causing everybody to go bankrupt, either through medical bills or college or something. Can you hear me? Okay.
Oh, yeah, I can hear you. You're fine. Your audio's... No, go ahead.
It sounded... Okay. But, you know, this is a huge problem. And once they have us all completely enslaved in fiat currency, they think that they can clamp down on their New World Order agenda and enslave the population and genocide the ones that they don't want. And we're going to surprise them. We're going to rise up and we're going to surprise them. And it's going to be through the energy of love. And it's going to be the female yin energy that's going to drive that revolution. And that's my prediction.
That's a very good prediction. Well, you know, I look in, just picking on California because I like to do that. But honestly, when you look at the, you want to talk about lucrative paychecks, Hollywood, California actors, overpaid entertainers, overpaid musicians, overpaid athletes. Those are the people also that are sitting there with all their billions and trillions of dollars investing in these black technologies and a lot of other things. So that's another piece of the puzzle. And that's another piece that needs to go down as well. And you know, I look at the media because I think I touched on this before when we were talking last week or a couple weeks ago. But it's really about us being born into and under Project Paperclip as children, and
that's
anybody who's
exactly right, Solaris.
That's a big deal because we are always and we were always indoctrinated without us even understanding what the hell was going on here. So you know, the awakening aspect is very, very powerful. Go ahead.
You've just said a mouthful right there, and that's in my book. And not very many people have asked me that question, so I'm really glad that you're bringing it up. Can I expound on that?
Oh, absolutely. Yes, go ahead.
Yeah, Project Paperclip is the reason that we're in this pickle that we're in. And for those of you who don't know what it is, it's the Nazi scientists and doctors and researchers, and whoever else it is that came over after World War II under assumed names. There was something in the vicinity of 50,000 Nazi scientists, doctors, and other corrupt Nazi officers that came under guise of Operation Paperclip. They were assimilated into American society with new names, identities, money, houses were purchased for them, black budget, all of that. And then they sat down and they started their nasty experiments. And Dr. Joseph Mengele was one of them. And he was brought over to the United States in under an assumed name. And he continued his research and his development of the MK Ultra program. MK is German for mind control. You know, it's the German language, so MK. And Dr. Joseph Mengele was actually a black magician, a sorcerer, a high priest of Satan. And so they have mastered the art of dark sorcery, and they know how to manipulate the energies of the mind, the body, and the spirit. And so he was really, really highly revered among the Nazis. So they protected him because this was an occult organization, the Nazis. And so when Dr. Mengele came over here, they gave him... To think that our own government knew that, and they gave him carte blanche and all the money he could ever want to do whatever he wanted. And not only that, but Adolf Hitler survived World War II. You know, I'm not a person who goes down that rabbit hole in my book or anything, but the proof is out there. The FBI released some documents just this past year proving that they knew that Hitler was alive in Argentina. And as a matter of fact, I have friends who are from Argentina and who lived in the very town where Hitler spent his life, and many of them met Hitler. So he lived to be, and he had a different name and everything, and he lived to be pretty old, and he had a wife and children and everything. So, you know, these things were well known by the United States government. And it's so, you know, that begs the question. It goes back to what you said, too, about this FBI black operation. You know, who are these people? Why did they know about Hitler? Why did we fight a war against Hitler, but then bring all of these people over here to continue these programs? Why? you know.
Mm-hmm.
Well,
Exactly.
this goes deeply into the Bush family, the Bush cartel,
Mm-hmm.
and it goes deeply into those who wanted to control the world with the New World Order agenda. And that's what World War II was about, and World War III is on the horizon. So, you know, from World War II on, they began implementing the programs that were going to subvert our society. And
Right.
those programs, I outline them in my book. And there are all kinds of programs, all the way from education to medicine to pharmaceuticals to counseling to even literature. One of the things I
Mm-hmm.
discovered is that some of the top 10 New York Times bestseller books over the last 60 years were written by Illuminati mind control handlers who
Yeah,
were
I believe
expert
it.
writers,
Mm-hmm.
you know, including what was the most recent one that was a big hit that was written by the Illuminati was The Big Short, which tells the story of the stock market crash, but it's a fake story. And in reality, it was manipulated by the Illuminati. So, you know, this kind of information started coming to me ages ago, and I was always like, why do I have to have this information? I don't want to do it. But
That's
then I
because you didn't
realized
sit on it. You put a book out, you know.
this was my sole contract in this lifetime, is to be a system buster, a true speaker, and then a divine mother healer.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, once you tell the truth and you break open the lie, what's left is the raw material that you reassemble. You break down a person's soul when you lie to them. And when you tell them the truth, it's the beginning of the putting their soul back together. And so I have to tell the truth. And these are all the things that I've discovered. And Operation Paperclip is a major part of it. And I was, you know, I'm a baby boomer.
Mm-hmm.
So I was born in the 50s. And as a result, my entire life was spent under the influence of this group of people, all these Nazis. And then since my father being in the Masons, I experienced it firsthand.
Mm-hmm.
So I know a great deal about it because once I deprogrammed myself, all the information came forward. And
Right.
I'm here to tell you, and this was verified by Stansfield Turner, the former CIA director from the 60s, that there were more than 180 programs of MK Ultra and your program. They all have various different names, you know, but most of them were developed by the Nazi scientists. Some of them were at NASA, some of them were at universities, some of them were at military labs, some of them were in private locations, but there are various types of experiments on humans that are mental, emotional, physical, and spiritual experiments. And now, and you know, I'm older, so the new programs, they never stopped. I mean, Stansfield Turner came forward and said, yes, we did it. It's over. And he said maybe 50 million Americans. That's a lot of people. Well, they've continued on. And I have clients right now who are still being mind controlled. And they're being worked upon with these psychotronic weapons like what happened to you, Solaris.
Oh, yeah. Well, I was a test pilot for the artificial telepathy. It's not the targeted individuals project. It's very different. But I can tell you point blank, I know what they do with those technologies. I know how it destroys body, mind, spirit. It will tear everybody out. I mean, down from the inside out. It's disgusting. And I'm glad you're working with a lot of those people. But I would say one thing. This is why I've been always chomping at the bit to try to get anybody in D.C. to pay attention to the fact that these people need to be called on the carpet and prosecuted for war criminals. And people need to be actually paid restitution for damages that are really pretty much irreversible at this point in the continuum. So it's disgusting, some of the things they've done.
The damages to my life are irreversible.
Right.
You know, the damage to my health, my career, to family members I love is irreversible. Mm-hmm. That's where your spirituality comes in, is that if you can't forgive, you're going to go nuts. And, you know, there came a time where I had to accept the fact that that I came in to deliver this information. So I had to experience it in order to understand it and to heal it. So I can either spend my life being enraged or I can work on the solution. Mm-hmm. So, you know, I've been privy to a lot of really powerful information. I prefer to use it to heal humanity. So that's why I recommend people read my book, because I have a whole program for deprogramming you and healing you if you've experienced this. And I guarantee everybody has experienced this to a certain degree, Solaris. I'm preaching to the choir. I know you know, but anybody that was born after World War II, even right up until recently, you're a victim of new forms of mind control, like chemtrails. When they drop chemtrails down on you, they're dropping nanoparticles onto you. Those nanoparticles are smart particles. They have technology in them. When they get into your bloodstream and your lungs, what they do is they make your body into a radio transmitter, and you are magnetized. And once you're magnetized to a certain degree, they can beam to you whatever they want to beam to you, whether that's a mind control program or a, death program or whatever, or a sickness program. You become a receiver. And this is what they're also doing with the smart meters in the homes, where they're putting smart meters in the houses of people. They're beaming things to people. If you have a smart meter, get rid of it. Yeah. Because they can, it's like a microwave. They can send radiation and various serious weaponry directed at your heart and everything. So, these people, go ahead. These people have gotten very sophisticated, but that's just that part of it. There's also diseases that they've created. Like Lyme disease was created in a laboratory in Montauk by Dr. Eric Traub, who was a Nazi doctor. And he was given a luxurious life, and he spent his whole life researching biowarfare. And they began developing diseases that are bioweapons, and they put them into mosquitoes and all kinds of things. And in the case of Lyme, they put it into ticks, and they released it in Lyme, Connecticut. And that's why they call it Lyme disease, because that was where it was first discovered. And this is a very serious immune compromising illness. So, the solution, I think, Solaris is going to be spiritual. I really do. I think we're going to find the answers as we raise our vibration and our frequency in our body. We can destroy the nanoparticles and the bioweapons. That's why my work is so important. Everybody needs to be attuned to Reiki.
Yeah, Reiki is a good one. There's no doubt about that. I do know that just from my own personal experience with technology, sometimes energy work does not dispel it. Sorry. No, I'm just telling you. Because I've been there, and I've worked with
you've
the best,
told me
and I
that.
have the best too. And I can tell you that you need an EMP pulse with some of this technology. Some of the stuff they've done with triangulation of a target with the interface and the electronic brain interface is very hard to disable, even with the best healers involved. Chi Master, even with a shock to the system. But I would say point blank, I'm looking at a small EMP pulse at this point. And Billy Hayes just confirmed. Hi, Billy. You can call in if you like. So I don't know if you met Billy Hayes, but you've got to get in touch with him, Salini. He worked on the harp. He worked on the harp. And so anyways.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah.
I was just about to say that, so I'm glad you interjected, because you reminded me of where I was going with that whole speech. I agree with you. There's some things that she doesn't touch. And that's their desire, is to create some kind of super nanoparticle that's untouchable by anything. And the people that I've worked with, from what they say, is that the EMP pulse is the only thing that kills these nanoparticles. I feel like we're still discovering it, exactly what to do. But you're absolutely correct. I'm hearing that the EMP pulse is the solution for that. And perhaps if we get a hold of these early enough, we can start disabling these nanoparticles before they get a hold of our systems and become, when we become transhuman,
Well, I think the part of it is, teaching DNA activation and ascension work, and I know you've been there too. That's what I was specializing in before they pulled me in the program. And I can tell you, it's a hijacking of the electromagnetic light body. Every part of our multidimensional design, they're trying to hijack through technological interface. So that's why it becomes a little more entangled and a little more difficult. But I will say, there's always a solution to the equation. And I've been working on this also with different frequencies to try to see what I can do. But I can tell you the biggest thing I've been able to do all these years has been to override and rewrite the program myself, and eventually just fight my way into the technology and take it down step by step by step by step. And I have been successful to some degree, but not fully successful, but I have been very successful with the technological stuff. So,
well, that's what I want to hear about when you're on my show.
Definitely.
Because,
and,
I'd
love for you to work on me in person, and I will see you in person, because you and I definitely, I've always felt very strongly connected to you. So I will meet you at some point in the continuum physically, but yeah, we have a lot of data to share, and I'm happy that you're here on the show, and I encourage everybody to purchase your beautiful book. And the best way is on Amazon again, right?
That's probably the best way. I mean, it's also available on my website, emergingfromthematrix.com.
Okay.
It's available at Barnes & Noble, and it's available in hardback, softcover, ebook. And there I describe a lot of this whole process, and some of the spiritual developments taking place within me, I can't fully explain to you because they're happening rapidly and intensely and very powerfully. Sounds like the break's coming up.
We're heading for a break. Everybody, please stay tuned. You're listening to Ravenstar's Witching Hour. I am Solaris BlueRaven. My wonderful guest tonight is Salini Teri Apodaca. We'll be right back. Stay tuned.